I pulled my luxury boat into the driveway, the sun glinting off the polished deck, when I heard screaming from across the street. "Arrest him! Call the cops!" Karen, the HOA president, stomped out of her pristine garden like she owned the world. She waved her phone like a weapon. "You can't park that here. This is against the rules." I took a deep breath. She had no idea who she was yelling at. "You're trespassing," she shrieked. "I'm calling the police right now." I leaned against my boat, calm, letting her fury burn hotter. She had no clue. I owned the Marina she assumed I had no ties to. "Go ahead," I said softly. "I've got cameras everywhere. Every second you're yelling is on tape." Her eyes widened for the tiniest moment, before she regained her smugness, as if her fake authority could protect her. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, whispering. Karen didn't care. She stepped closer, pointing an accusatory finger. "I can make you leave. I have HOA backing." I smiled faintly. "Funny, I think I have something that counts a lot. More than HOA rules." Her phone rang as she dialed 911, and she held it like a badge of justice. The tension was thick. One wrong move from her and everything would unravel, except she didn't know it would be her unraveling first. The boat gleamed in the sun, almost daring her to touch it. "You do know," I said quietly, "that the marina across town? It's mine, all mine, and every single camera from there to here is watching you." Her face went pale for a split second. Then she forced a laugh. "You think that matters? I'm in charge here." But the moment she tried to storm closer, I reached into my pocket, holding the Marina's security app open. The live feed showed her shouting, loud and clear, across the neighborhood. I could almost hear the silence of disbelief settling in her throat. You can't do that!" she stammered. The neighbors were gathering now, phones out, watching her meltdown. The first viral line of the day hit. "I didn't fight for this country to be told. I can't park in my own driveway." And just like that, the world shifted. Karen had called the cops. But she had no idea who she had just provoked. Minutes later, two men in dark uniforms pulled up, flashing badges that looked official, but something felt off. Karen's face lit up with triumph. "See, I told you." "The police are here," she cackled, pointing at me like I was a criminal. The so-called officers stepped out and approached cautiously. "Sir, you need to move your boat immediately," one said, voice serious. I smiled, keeping calm. "And who exactly are you?" "Which department?" They hesitated, glancing at each other. Karen barked, "Doesn't matter. Just do your job." I pulled out my phone and opened the live Marina feed again. Funny, the real sheriff across town would love to know two fake cops are harassing a homeowner on private property, I said, letting the words sink in. Their confident stance wavered. One of them muttered under his breath, but Karen didn't notice. She was too busy recording the scene for her HOA. "Proof." "Stop right there," I said firmly. "I own the Marina. I have all the footage. And if you try to touch this boat, it's going on the news." The men froze. Their fake authority evaporated like mist in the sun. Karen's smugness started cracking. You can't threaten the police," she yelled. I leaned closer, voice low but deadly calm. "They aren't real cops, Karen. And soon, everyone you've humiliated will know the truth." Phones appeared in neighbors. Hands. They were live streaming everything. Karen's face turned red, then pale, then a weird mix of panic and fury. The first twist hit hard. She had called for help, but instead, the entire neighborhood now witnessed her fake power crumble. Then, just as I thought it was over, a real police cruiser rounded the corner, lights flashing. The real sheriff stepped out, scanning the scene. "What's going on here?" he demanded. Karen froze mid-sentence. The fake cops looked ready to run. My grin widened. The showdown had just begun. The real sheriff stepped forward, his eyes sharp as he scanned Karen, the fake cops, and my boat. "Someone explain why I have reports of officers impersonating law enforcement?" he asked, his tone cold and firm. Karen's mouth opened, then closed. She stuttered. I just... He was parking illegally." I stayed calm, letting the sheriff absorb the footage on my phone. "Sir, these two aren't real cops," I said, and Karen here called them to harass me. "Every second is recorded." The sheriff's gaze shifted to the fake officers. They were sweating, trying to look official but failing miserably. Karen's face twisted in anger. "You can't do this!" I'm HOA president. I enforce the rules. A neighbor muttered behind her. Rules don't include calling fake cops. I didn't even have to say anything. The tension did the talking. Every eye was on her. Then came the next twist. My wife appeared, walking calmly from the garage. She had trained SWAT units for years. The moment she stepped into the street, the fake cops visibly flinched. Step away from the boat, she said, voice steady. Karen froze mid-scream. The neighbors gasped. She had no idea she was up against someone who could legally and physically protect her family. Phones were everywhere now, recording live. Karen tried to pull out her phone to escalate the call, but my wife shook her head. It's over. The real authorities are here, and every lie will be exposed. Karen's confident facade began cracking. Completely. The humiliation was just beginning, and everyone could see it. Then the sheriff spoke again, this time to Karen. You're lucky I'm here before this went any further. You're under investigation for impersonating, law enforcement, and harassment. The neighbors whispered, cameras flashing everywhere. The viral line hit in real time. Calling the cops doesn't make you right when you're the one breaking the law. Karen's legs shook as the sheriff stepped closer, but she still tried to force her voice out. You can't blame me. He brought that huge boat here. It ruins the neighborhood. Her words cracked like thin glass. She kept glancing at the cameras pointed at her from every direction. The sheriff didn't even look at the boat. Ma'am, the problem isn't the boat. The problem is you calling fake officers, threatening a homeowner, and abusing your HOA position. His words fell like heavy blocks. Karen's face went blank for a second, like she couldn't understand how she had lost control so fast. The fake cops tried to slip away toward their car, but my wife stepped in front of them, arms crossed. Don't even try, she said quietly. One of them whispered, She's SWAT. I know her. We're done. The fear in his voice spread across Karen's face, too. Karen suddenly pointed at me, desperate. He's lying. He doesn't own anything. He's just showing off. I unlocked my phone, tapped the Marina app, and a live video of my staff appeared. Boss, the afternoon shipments just arrived. Want us to dock the new boats now? Every neighbor heard it. The air went silent. No birds, no wind, just pure shock. Karen's mouth hung open. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time and hating every second of it. You're the owner, she whispered. I nodded. You tried to control the one person in this neighborhood you should have never messed with. The sheriff exhaled slowly, shaking his head. Ma'am, from this moment, you're removed from all HOA authority, and you will answer for calling fake officers to intimidate a resident. Karen finally broke. You can't do that, she screamed. The sheriff looked at her evenly. I just did. The neighbors watched as Karen's power slipped out of her hands like sand. Her face twisted with panic because she finally realized something she never expected. Losing her HOA power wasn't the worst part. The real disaster was still coming. Karen stood frozen, breathing hard. Her eyes flicking between the sheriff, my wife, and the neighbors recording every second. She looked like someone waking up in the middle of a nightmare she created herself. But things weren't done yet, not even close. The sheriff walked toward the fake cops. Both of you, hands where I can see them. They obeyed instantly. Karen rushed forward, grabbing the sheriff's arm. Wait, they were only helping me. You can't arrest them if I ask them for help. The sheriff turned slowly, giving her a look that made the whole neighborhood go silent. So you admit you hired them? Karen's hands dropped. Her lips trembled. She didn't answer, because answering meant she was finished. My wife stepped beside me, her voice low so only Karen could hear. You thought you could scare us, but you didn't know who you were dealing with. Karen swallowed hard, her eyes flicking down like a child caught stealing. Then another twist arrived, one Karen absolutely didn't expect. A black SUV rolled up the street, stopping right behind the sheriff's cruiser. The door opened, and out stepped Mr. Dawson, the HOA regional director, the man Karen always bragged about knowing personally. She gasped. Sir, thank God you're here. They're lying about everything. But he didn't even let her finish. He turned to me instead. I'm so sorry for all this. We received multiple complaints about her behavior these past months, but this... He shook his head slowly. This is beyond anything we imagined. Karen blinked, confused. What do you mean complaints? I run this neighborhood. Everyone respects me. A neighbor behind her whispered, "No, Karen, we were all just scared of you." Another added, "You fined my son for chalk drawings." A third said, "You told my wife her flowers were illegal." Karen spun around like she'd been slapped by the whole block. Her power wasn't slipping anymore. It was collapsing, crumbling, falling apart in front of everyone she thought she controlled. Mr. Dawson held up a folder. "This is a removal notice. You are officially stripped of all HOA authority effective immediately, and depending on the sheriff's report, there may be criminal charges." Karen shook her head, backing away. No, this can't be happening. You can't do this to me." But the sheriff stepped forward. "Ma'am, you did this to yourself." Her knees buckled. She grabbed the side of her fence to stay standing. The neighbors recorded everything, and she finally broke, whispering, "Please, stop filming." But no one stopped, because the real twist was still waiting, something that would destroy whatever pride she had left. Karen stood against the fence, shaking, her eyes red and wild. She kept looking around like someone who had just lost her whole world in a single afternoon. But the day still had one more blow waiting for her, the one she never imagined. Mr. Dawson stepped closer. "There's something else," he said, opening the folder. "Your fines, your threats, your false notices, they weren't just rude. They violated state housing laws." Karen stiffened. No, I only enforced the rules." He shook his head. "You made your own rules, and you used them to intimidate families." The sheriff took the folder, scanning it quickly. Then he looked straight at her. "Ma'am, based on what I'm seeing, you will need to come with us for questioning." Karen gasped like she'd been stabbed. "No, I'm not going anywhere. This is my neighborhood. I built everything here." I stepped forward, calm, steady. "You didn't build anything. Karen, you just scared people into pretending you did." She glared at me with wet eyes. You ruined my life." I shook my head. "You did that the moment you tried to control everyone." The sheriff signaled the real officers. They gently took her by the arms. She didn't fight. She just stared at the ground, numb, broken, her voice barely a whisper. "This was supposed to be my community." As they led her to the cruiser, neighbors stood together, quiet but relieved. For the first time, the street felt free. Then the sheriff turned to me. "Thank you for staying calm. Not many people would have handled this with patience." I nodded. "I didn't fight for this country to be pushed around by someone abusing power." He gave a small smile. "And you protected this neighborhood more today than she ever did." My wife slipped her arm around mine. The sun was setting, glowing off the boat in my driveway. The same boat that started all this. The same boat Karen tried to use to destroy me. But instead, it exposed her. As the sheriff's cruiser rolled away, Karen looked back one last time. Eyes empty, finally realizing the truth. The rules she used to control everyone had become the chains that took her away. The neighbors started clapping softly, not because Karen was gone, but because justice had finally arrived. I looked at the Marina app one more time. Boats moving in the water under the evening sky, and I felt a calm pride settle in my chest. My land, my boat, my freedom, I whispered. And no one is taking that from me.